Okay, hello. Sorry, I had an issue with my I had to clear up storage to finish the video. So I had to delete some old files. Um because I'm a pack rat. But okay, so to get back to what we were talking about before. Um we were talking about the exile and the Romans and all that. Okay, so the Jews were then thrown out and for 2,500 years were banished to the various parts of the empire, and some of them did try to come back a little bit. Um, but this is important to remember: there always were Jews there, even though the community became tiny eventually. It was always there. It's not like there was a period of time where there weren't Jews living there. There were always Jews there. It's just at one time they were the demographic and political power and majority, and then they became the minority. But they were still there, and there were still Jews there who had lived there for thousands of years, for centuries, even though that wasn't true of the vast majority of Jews who had been exiled, but who always longed for and prayed to God every day, 3 times a day. There's like at least half the prayers are about talking about returning to Israel and the temple and all of that stuff, which is why I find the very notion of anti-Zionist Judaism to be such a ridiculous oxymoron, because Zionism, the Jewish people's connection to the land of Israel as their ancestral homeland, is as linked, it's so linked to Judaism that if you try to get rid of even one part of it, the rest of it just crumbles into nothing. Because we're so linked to that land because it's our home. Historically, politically, culturally, we never gave up hope. We never gave up the dream of returning to Israel. For 2,500 years, it's been a part of our daily prayers. We've always longed for Israel. So this whole notion that, oh, the Jews aren't really from there or whatever, it's nonsense, absolute nonsense. And history, archaeology, I could give you so many sources. And again, this ties into Palestinianism, because Palestinianism is the ideology that no, actually, like we said before, the Jews that live there now are actually European colonizers of the Jewish faith, of the Jewish religion, but European ethnicity and specific original nationalities: Poland, Germany, England, Denmark, what have you, Italy, France. So the idea basically is that a bunch of French people, white French people of the Hebrew religion, moved into Israel. A bunch of English, European, or British people, English, white English people, white Englishmen, and English women, white English people of the Hebraic religion moved into Palestine, and people from the Netherlands, white Dutch people of the Hebrew faith, moved into Palestine. All of these different European powers came as colonial settlers representing the various empires they were each from in Palestine. That is the narrative, and that's how Palestine was eventually stolen from the native Arabs who lived there. The only problem with that is, historically, there's never been an independent nation and an independent autonomous people or ethnicity called the Palestinians until not even the 1940s. In the 1970s, in the 1970s was the very beginning of the Palestinian national movement, and what it was, well, we're jumping a little bit ahead, so we'll get to that. Um, but so, but as I already mentioned, the Jews had always longed for Israel, had always associated with Israel, and there had always been Jews there. And when Jews from other countries, by the way, when they came to the land of Israel, the Jews there didn't think like, oh, who are these weird foreign like invaders? Like, for example, if the like when the Russians started pouring into the Ukraine when the war began, God willing, it'll be over soon, and the people of Ukraine will have their freedom and dignity once again, God willing. But when the Russians started pouring in Ukraine, they weren't like, oh, look, other Slavs, because that ethnically Polish, Ukrainian, Slovakian people, they're part of a larger ethnic group called the Slavic peoples. So Ukrainians didn't, the Ukrainians didn't see the Russians coming into their country and going, oh, our fellow Slavs, our brothers. No, they saw violent invaders who were there to take their country away from them. The reason that that's different from this is because the Jews in Israel did not see these Jews coming from Europe as some weird, foreign, different people. No, they saw it as, oh, our brothers from around the world, they're coming home. That's how they saw it. And that's how it was, again, because if you trace the lineage, Jews originally were from that area, were from that country, which, by the way, interestingly enough, the area that people call the West Bank was actually historically called Judea and Samaria. And this has been kind of a thing that I've been doing with people lately. I know I'm kind of a little bit of an asshole, but but I've been doing this with people lately just not to mess with them, but just because, like, to make a point. I go, Judea, Jews, Judea, Jews, Judea. I think there might be some. I think those two things, I think Judea and Jews might have a little something in common. Just maybe. Call me crazy, but I think just maybe there just might be a connection between Jews and Judea. I know, right? Crazy, right? Crazy. But so that's my point, is that we've always had a connection